I'm Susan Vacchi with Compass Group, and I'm here to talk to you about the learner-driven environment, where we've introduced a whole new experience. The role of learning and development is the same. Develop your associates to be successful in their current and future roles. What's different and what's changing is how learning and development departments do that. Think about it. How often are you offering traditional brick and mortar classrooms? Do associates want to wait for information? Today's learners want information when they need it, at their convenience. They want learning available in short bursts, at their fingertips. And learners want to customize what they learn. In short, learners of today want to drive their own learning. Here's a quote from Todd Tober, who's a VP of Learning and Development by Burson at Deloitte. A noticeable lack of participation, engagement, and satisfaction exists today in corporate training. Companies and learners have all changed faster than many learning and development organizations have kept up. Unfortunately, my learning and development team was not keeping up. We were comfortable in our old way of doing things. And then we realized we couldn't provide enough learning opportunities for our internal associates, especially with leadership development. Something had to give. Our challenge was to support the needs of the modern learner and increase throughput without proportionately increasing allocated resources. At Compass Group, we view modern learners as learners who want untethered flexibility, choice, and smaller amount of information in small bursts. Compass Group is an international contract food service and support service company. We have over 250,000 associates in the US and Canada alone. Basically, we've got a lot of people at a lot of places who need a lot of training. So when we were given this challenge, our response was a refreshed approach for two of our leadership development programs. One is called ADAPT, and the other is called Leadership Accelerator. Our refreshed approach included more flexibility, more learner-driven content, more potential for higher throughput, and more experiential learning. And our refreshed approach included less graded homework, less duration, and less required classroom hours. So let's take a look at that first leadership development program called ADAPT. ADAPT prepares our unit level managers for promotion to multi-unit positions. The ADAPT program focuses on building a bench of multi-unit level managers. Historically, ADAPT has been a 7-month program with 2 live events, online classrooms in between, along with a very long and drawn-out project. It's been well received, especially the live events that act as bookends. So when we embarked on the new approach, there were some things our stakeholders still wanted, and one of those things was to keep the live kickoff opening event and the live closing event. Now, just because we had to keep it didn't mean that we couldn't change it. And so our biggest change here is reducing the kickoff from 3 days to 2 days of a live meeting. Now, what was decided was that 1 day of information that was no longer there was now going to still be included in the program, but we had to find a creative way to address it. So one of the topics, situational leadership, became an online classroom discussion, and then 2 other topics, SWOT and action planning and goal setting, became optional. They are self-directed studies available in case someone wants to brush up on those topics. They'll need them to be able to complete a project that's required for the ADAPT program. So let's talk about that particular project and what that means. We amped up our experiential learning with our ADAPT project. There's always been a project, but in the past, it was the decision of the participant on what it was that they were going to do for their project. Now, in this new and improved version of ADAPT, participants are given an operation in their region as selected by their regional vice president to improve. It's very much one of the first types of assignments that someone would have once they become a multi-unit manager. So therefore, we're providing them an opportunity to get some real life experience in a little bit of a safer environment. When we talk about improving a unit, we're talking about things around things like profitability, customer service, and client satisfaction. What is pretty neat with the ADAPT program is that all of our curriculum and objectives support the greater project, and they offer experience and support as participants work on those projects. We also updated our online classrooms, and this has been a big change with how we've approached this leadership development program. The first thing we did was we reframed our topics. We identified how could we look at this information and was there anything overlapping? And what we found is that there were several things that overlapped or were close enough in content and in concept that we could combine them together. So once we reframed our topics, we were able to reduce the total number of online classrooms from 11 to 5. And we are now offering each of those online classrooms more than once. In the past, everyone had to show up at a particular designated time and they needed to be there and there was no flexibility for them. We're now providing it at least twice every 6 months so that folks have a choice of when they can actually join us. And we have no set order. It adds to flexibility when there are 5 topics and you can take them in any order that suits your personal schedule. And lastly, we added a discussion portion in our online classrooms. What's nice about the discussion portion is that learners no longer have to submit or turn in homework because we're now doing discussions instead of homework turn-ins. That, of course, has been a big hit with our participants. So what else is learner-driven with this ADAPT program? We have added something new that we call the graduate Q&A, or the graduate question and answer session. So every month, ADAPT participants can attend an online Q&A chat with an ADAPT graduate. It gives them an opportunity to ask some questions about the program and about the graduate's experience once they complete the program and all. And who better to talk about it than the folks who are part of the program. Now, over the course of the ADAPT program, participants must attend 2 of these Q&A chat sessions. Another change that we've done to our ADAPT program is we've made it more flexible and that we have said you still have to complete day in the life tours, which is an opportunity for participants to job shadow colleagues, but we've basically said it's up to you when you want to go. Do 4 of them. They need to fit certain requirements, but it's up to that individual participant to identify the people they most need to shadow when it's convenient for their schedules. This adds a lot of flexibility, both in timing, but also in content. So if somebody has a background of being a chef, they don't really need to job shadow their regional chef. They might do better if they're pretty bad in finances to work with their regional financial manager instead. And another thing that we have changed when it comes to providing some flexibility for our participants is for them to choose the mode in which they complete their selected reading. So they still have some reading that they have to do, but now they have an opportunity to choose what format that reading will come in. Would they like it to be an audiobook, a hardcover paperback, or would they like it to be on some type of reader? And while that may not seem like a big deal, when you have an entire book to read, it's been great for participants to be able to pick and choose what learning model and mode suits them best. When we look at our closing event for our ADAPT program, our biggest change is that we now have a closing event graduation, and it's scheduled every 6 months. So it's very similar to college graduations. In the past, everybody started together, everybody finished together, and if something happened to you along the way, you ended up becoming a dropout and never finishing your ADAPT program. We've recognized that life happens, and so when life happens, it's important for us to provide some flexibility to our students. Now, during that time frame, if something happens, you know what? They have a little bit of time, they can take a break, they can come back and they can pick up where they left off, and then once they complete the requirements, they go to the very next graduation that is scheduled. That also has been popular because, like I said, things happen, especially life events that are sometimes unplanned, and folks still want to grow and develop, but they're just not able to always meet it on the time schedule that they originally planned. So at the end of the day, when we look at our ADAPT program, what we're excited about is that these changes have met our needs. We have increased flexibility, increased scalability, and we've increased our throughput. If you look at some stats, overall, we have reduced the online classroom duration by 33%. We have completely 100% eliminated graded assignments. There's no more homework, so to speak, to turn in. And we have increased by 100% our online classrooms. As I mentioned, we used to offer them once during a certain time period. Now we offer them the same topic twice. And then lastly, we have seen a 48% increase in participation and completion of our ADAPT program with all of these changes that I'm talking about. And we expect the participation rate to continue to increase. All in all, we're pretty happy with what we've done so far with the ADAPT program. Now let's turn our attention to the second leadership development program that we have worked on. The second program is called Leadership Accelerator, and Leadership Accelerator prepares multi-unit managers for regional vice president roles. Historically, we offered Leadership Accelerator as a live 3-day traditional classroom for about 30 to 35 people once a year. And it cost us a lot of time, and it cost us a lot of money. This audience is one that is constantly on the go and rarely has large chunks of available time. So you can imagine a 3-day commitment was not one that was easy for them to do. Looking at all that, we said, you know what? It is time for a huge overhaul. The first thing we overhauled was the content, the what. Based on surveys and interviews with senior leaders and participants, we identified 7 critical categories for successful regional vice presidents, the role that this particular program is set up for. Within each category, we offer several courses. What's new is that the learner chooses which of the 7 categories to work on and how many of the courses to complete within a category. So it's highly customizable to the learner's unique needs. They may decide that they only need 1 category and they need 3 of the courses was in there. Or they might decide they need something out of every category. Or they might decide 3 of the categories, they're going to complete everything that's in there. It's whatever is going to be best for that individual. Now, unlike our other leadership development programs that have set start dates and set finish dates with groups, Leadership Accelerator has a rolling admission. Learners start whenever they want and whenever it's convenient for them. And the great thing about Leadership Accelerator is that learners can learn anywhere, anytime. It's all online and asynchronous learning. So if they're traveling and they're in a hotel room at night and they want to work on their program coursework, they can. If they have a few minutes while they're at an airport or that they ended up having a meeting that ended up being canceled, they can jump right in and do whatever it is that they want to in that little bit of time that they have. So it allows them to be flexible for their schedules. When we look at all of our results for Leadership Accelerator, we're pleased with our progress so far. When we boil it down to the numbers again, we once again have more flexibility, scalability, and throughput than we had previously. So we have eliminated 100% that traditional classroom duration, and now participants can choose up to 75% of their own content. And we have now provided 100% of the time and increased their online classrooms. And in 10 months, we have increased participation by 110%. We're super pleased about it. And the one thing that, of course, any business is happy about is when you can reduce costs. We have had a phenomenal cost reduction with this change in the program, and the per participant cost has gone down by 77%. So what I've just shared with you, two different examples of how we are changing at Compass Group to manage and keep up with the learner needs of today. Question is, are you ready to do the same? How learner-driven friendly is your organization? To help assess that, I want you to answer the following 5 questions with a yes, a no, or a somewhat. Are you ready? Here's the first question. Number 1, are participants able to choose when or in what order they complete training requirements? Yes, no, or somewhat. Question number 2, do participants choose the content? Yes, no, or somewhat. Question 3, is content available 24/7? Yes, no, or somewhat. Question number 4, do you have the systems and technology to support the learner-driven approach? Again, yes, no, or somewhat. And lastly, question number 5, would you be able to double participants without doubling the amount of time or money it takes to administer? Yes, no, or somewhat. Now, if you answered yes to all of these questions, then your organization is highly learner-driven friendly. If you have some no's and somewhats, then you know what? You've got some work to do to increase your learner-driven friendliness. The best place to start is with your no's. Then move on to your somewhats. What you focus on first really and truly depends upon your organization's culture, objectives, and needs. But whatever you do, do something, because learner-driven is the future of learning. Thanks so much.